Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to their episode of Tuesday Takes here on the Dirty Birds and Brews podcast. I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin, joined by Tre'Shon Diaz. He is at Tre'Shon. We're here to bring you some Tuesday takes, of course, on the Falcons' latest victory. They've been stacking them up this year, Tre'Shon. Just 6-3. For most of that game, they were pooping on the Dallas Cowboys, and while they have to just make me sweat a little bit at the end of every game, this one was less sweaty. Let's be honest. It was Cooper Rush. I wasn't. I was a little frustrated giving up a touchdown to Cooper Rush because that just really it harshed the vibe a little bit. But ultimately, good game, best game by the defense in a while, taking advantage of a Dallas team that is falling apart completely. Mm-hmm. But good win, and the Falcons are 6-3. How you feeling?
Man, feeling great. And, I think the word you use, stacking, Falcons don't have back-to-back losses this season. They just kicked off their second winning streak now. Feeling great. Just kind of getting used to being the fan of a winning football team again.
It feels so weird. I feel like I can't trust anything. I'm just constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop or to wake up, and it's oh, that was just a dream that we won those games. But it's not a dream. It's real life. The Falcons are 6-3. They took down America's sweethearts, or maybe America's most hated team right now in the Dallas Cowboys. They have dispatched every one of their division opponents, including dismantling the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have their second matchup with the Saints coming this week. The Saints, who are 2-7 and just fired their head coach as of this morning. So hopefully they don't get that, coaching and firing bump. We can't allow that to happen. But if there's any team that I think we can trust this Falcons team to not take lightly, it's Raheem Morris. Gets the rivalry. I feel very confident that Raheem will have this team fired up to take down the Saints and end their season. So, I'm happy. I'm not too concerned about that. We might get to that game a little bit later in the show, but ultimately, good game for the Falcons on both sides of the ball. Offense was surgical for much of this game. I mean, just dismantling the Cowboys to the point where they basically just packed it in for much of the fourth quarter. If you look at the raw stats, you're like, wow, the Cowboys look like they should have won this game. I mean, yeah, the Cowboys outgained the Falcons. They won the time of possession battle. They ran 20 more plays than the Falcons did. And they got their asses kicked.
Hats off to them.
And the Falcons even fumbled, at one point. This could have been even more of a blowout. And of course, not the case. The Falcons get a comfortable win here. Probably should have been a 2-score win. It ends up being just a 1-score win at the end of the day, but was pretty comfortable the whole time. Luckily, no onside kick shenanigans like the last time these teams played. Kyle Pitts exercised those demons, so thank you, Kyle Pitts. Played that exactly right. Great job there. But Tre'Shon at 6-3 feels good, man. I mean, I don't really know how to react to it. Obviously, we got a long way to go, but statistically, I think over the last 20 seasons, teams that are 6-3 make the playoffs 70% of the time. So Falcons obviously on the right path in more ways than one. Feeling good.
Yeah. It's just kind of like you said, it's a little, you almost have to take a step back to really make sure you're absorbing the moment and everything that's going on. Because the Falcons are 6-3, 6-1 in NFC play, which is tied for the best record in the NFC conference. I mean, we have not seen this team be at heights like this since the 2016 season. I think to your point, it does at times feel like you're kind of waiting for, all right, where's the catch? But we've seen this team improve every week. We've seen them, really attack, their weaknesses. And obviously, the thing this week that really gave us the most hope for, future wins and encouragement was the defense took that big step this week too. We really saw Lake get out of his shell. He did try quite a few different things. That last drive did leave a bad taste in our mouth, and obviously we don't want to see that happen. But they walked out of there with the W, and we saw real improvement on both sides of the ball. And that's just really all you can ask for at this point. To be 6-3 and to have not peaked yet is a really good feeling, because this team still has not played. Like, this team still hasn't played if their best ball for like a full 4 quarters, and like that's like just astounding.
Yeah. No, I mean, I this they've survived the toughest stretch of their schedule early in the year. They've gone through the NFC South gauntlet. They only have 2 NFC South games left. One of them is next week. And they're 4-0 so far in that. So to be 6-3 at this point was way better than I was expecting. I expected the team to have a losing record right now, and I was expecting them to finish strong still, but I thought they would be slower out of the gate. So this is a welcome change. So we're going to break down this game, guys. We're going to get into some of those aforementioned changes that Lake made, which I respected and appreciated, and just the offense continuing to make strides to take steps forward. Before we do, I want to bring you guys a quick word from our sponsor. As always, it's BetOnline, folks. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting, from the earliest odds to in-game live betting. BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. The largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL to entertainment. And if you're listening to this on Tuesday morning, you have approximately 6 hours to get those political prop bets in that you're just, and it's really getting spicy now. Like the political betting markets are freaking out over these most recent polls. So, the chaos has begun with the betting markets. So if you want to jump in to that cesspool right now, that's on you, and you can at BetOnline. I'm not suggesting that you do any of these things, but if you wanted to, BetOnline's got you covered. So what are you waiting for, folks? To bet on normal things or political props, whatever you want, you could go to betonline.ag today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Make sure when you sign up to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get access to all the latest promotions. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, Tre'Shon. A lot to get to today, but I wanted to shout out a guy we've kind of been maligning over the past several weeks for kind of falling off from his 2023 play, where he was such a key piece, and that's Caden Ellis. A guy that this team really needed to step up, especially with Anderson missing another game. That obviously is concerning. Nate Landman just clearly still not healthy. He just looks like he's stuck in mud. I feel so bad for him. He's given it his all. I love Nate Landman. This is not Nate Landman slander. Just I feel like they need to find a way to not have him on the field until he's healthy. But Caden Ellis, man, his best game of the year, that was a vintage Ellis game. He looked aggressive. He looked confident. He was rushing the passer a lot. Like, this is what he needs to be doing. He needs to be going forward, not, get like it, to hopefully that means he's figured it out. He's getting comfortable in the scheme. But I love what we saw from Caden Ellis on Sunday.
Yeah. Led the team in pressures, which he came into the game leading the team in pressures, walked out with 3 QB hits, and got one of those ever elusive sacks that the Falcons have been thirsting after. And, he really did step up, Kevin. Like, we've talked about Ellis's play this year, and it's been disappointing, and coming into this game, like, you were really worried, where it's like, hey, like, once again, like, the opposing offense, what they're going to do is they're going to attack the middle of the field. They're really going to get after these linebackers, and they're going to make them work. And unless, one of them is able to step up, it's going to be a tough day. And today, or not today, but Sunday was the day that Caden Ellis said no more. And, we saw him make great plays as a pass rusher. He had 16 attempts, which I think was a season high, ended up finishing with a 31% pressure rate, which is fantastic. And, they did it by moving him around and giving him opportunities everywhere, letting him run stunts, and, just kind of using some of his natural gifts that he has when he's, asked to be a blitzer. But the big thing was just his play as a linebacker. Like, we really saw sound linebacker play, and that's what the team has been needing so badly. You think about that critical 4th down early in the game. That's the jet sweep to CD. And Ellis makes a fantastic play, because, like, even when you look at it on film, he really just barely gets a paw on him, and he's able to corral him so that everybody else can come and get him. If he doesn't make that play on CD, like, it almost looks like CD has a chance to, like, house that thing, not just get a first down. So, like, big play. diagnoses a screen later in the first quarter that also ends up, affecting the drive. And we've just kind of saw him have his best all around game yesterday. And I mean, you just think about having that and Troy on the field at the same time. And it's like we've talked about, coming into this season, which was like the linebacker play and Anderson is the X factor for this defense this year. And we've seen it twice now when just one linebacker has a good game, not even two, when just one of them has a good game, it completely flips this defense's play. The run game is like suddenly a non-factor, and teams are having to throw it and they're having to try to push the ball down the field more, which Lake's defense has been set up to not allow that. So you get just one good linebacker out there and this defense looks top 15. If you get two of them playing like that, who knows what what their peak could be as a unit.
Yeah, exactly. And that they really need Troy still for the coverage. They just can't have Landman out there in coverage, man. It's just they can't have him QB spying. They can't have him covering. He just can't move side to side at all. And obviously they don't have great options. JD Bertrand's concussed. He can't play. It seems like they were trying to lean more on him, and unfortunately he has the injury. And then Anderson misses another game. He seems closer to returning, but it's like, who knows at this point. So they did, sign Rashaan Evans to the active roster, so I assume they're getting him up to speed to potentially come in, but that's not great either, obviously. So at least Rashaan Evans can steps. Yeah, I mean, he famously, Rashaan Evans in his time in Atlanta, also known for coverage problems. So they really need Anderson back is the short answer, and hopefully they'll get him back soon. But if I think they figured it out with Ellis. They're like, look, let's just not even bother with him covering. Like, just if it's a passing down, send him. Send him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Send him.
We've talked about it. They haven't been getting great returns from putting him in coverage. Like, it's just not his strong suit. Like, it's okay to ask him to do it like every once in a while, but by doing that and having him do it at the rate they were asking before, they neutered this pass rush, and they still had Landman in coverage like with him half the time. So it's like, all right, like what are we even alleviating or doing here? So like, I agree with you. Like, I think that they were just like, you know what, we'll live with Landman's play and coverage because what Caden offers us in the pass rush is going to help take care of those issues and make that less of a problem for us. And it did. Like, Lake committed and stuck with it, and I'm give him credit for sticking with it too, because I wasn't sure if he was actually going to keep it like consistent throughout the entire game, or if he would peel back too early once he thought that it was like doing enough of the job. But he stuck with it.
He did. So good stuff there. And I know you mentioned like some of the other changes he made, and I wanted to give you the floor on that to point out stuff that you mentioned, because I've only gotten through like the first two quarters on the rewatch. But I'm curious because I one of the things, obviously, Damone Harris played a lot, got some snaps in the interior. There were some other wrinkles too. But yeah, what were some of the things you liked from the changes that we saw from Jimmy Lake's defense?
Yeah, I think I really liked the usage of Damone Harris in this game. This was the third game he's been called up from the practice squad, so in some ways you kind of view it as like his last tryout. To me, I thought after the Seahawks game, like, okay, yeah, this guy is offering them something that they need right now.
More than Lorenzo Carter.
Yeah, more than another guy we're going to talk about that got a lot of snaps as well. But
it's bad for my brand, but yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. Harris was all over the field. Like, they had him. He had like one snap as a 1 tech. He was a 3 tech a couple of times. We saw him as a 4-eye and a 5 tech. They kicked him inside a lot, and they paired him with D'Angelo Malone in a couple of blitz packages where Malone was the outside linebacker and he was the defensive tackle on the inside. And like, I thought that, Harris wasn't amazing. Like, he didn't kill it in all those alignments, but he did a pretty decent job in the 4-eye 5 tech role. And I really liked seeing him in some of those blitz packages. He's nice on stunts. He knows where to get to in his landing point. And that's like the most important thing when you have guys that are running stunts, is they need to be able to, if they're going across the line and the aiming point is the guard's like inside shoulder, they have to cross face, whatever it is that they're being asked to do. Harris does it, and he does it well. He was opening lanes for blitzing linebackers and doing what he was supposed to do. And he's still offering you good play in the run as well. So I think Atlanta like really found something like with Harris, because he's giving them like quality backup play, not just quality backup play for the Falcons. Like, this guy's giving you good reps that like any team would be happy with, I think, right now. So seeing them really utilize him in some new ways and kind of play around with like, you know, what he can do was something that, you know, I give Lake a lot of credit for, because I definitely did not expect that, just kind of based on some of the ways we've seen other players get used. So like, you know, seeing Ellis usage, seeing Harris's usage, maybe Lake is now mid-season, and now that he feels like he's seen, you know, 8 games worth of his guys, maybe now he feels more comfortable about making those adjustments. Maybe now he thinks that, okay, I've got more tape on my guys. I have a better understanding of what some of them should be doing and what some of them shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great observation. And Harris, like, he didn't light it up. I think PFF didn't even credit him with a pressure, which doesn't seem right to me. I think he had at least one, but it. I like that they're trying different things. I think a lot of people would say like, well, why isn't Zach Harrison, getting those snaps? Like, they made Zach Harrison gain like 30 pounds or something. Like
Yeah,
that.
Zach
That's
can't
kind of
move like
why.
that
Like,
anymore.
yeah. So like, I mean, obviously, I think that was stupid to make him do that. So maybe they should have him slim back down. But it is what it is there. But yeah, I mean, I like to see that. But yeah, we could talk about the other guy in that situation, D'Angelo Malone, who, fans and myself included were like, let's see what he can do. He's barely played. This guy should get a chance. And, well, we saw it, Tre'Shon. We saw D'Angelo Malone on the field. He was out on the field on Sunday.
We did. Last week it was Richie Grant. This week it's D'Angelo Malone. And like, unfortunately, this is just a pick that is not going to work out and did not work out. And like, we saw why before this game, he's only had 3 snaps on defense the past 2 years. Malone was just a non-factor, but like, I can live with you just straight up losing your reps. Like, it is what it is. Like, it happens. But like, what we see from Malone on tape is just like a very undisciplined football player. One, there's like a play where I'm like 90% sure he's not supposed to be running a stunt, and it's the Dak Prescott scramble. And when I watch it, it doesn't look like he's supposed to be running a stunt. Nobody else is doing anything. And when I look at Harris's approach, he's not trying to cross face with the tackle. He's on the inside of Malone on this scenario. He's just kind of working through the outside guard's shoulder, but it looks like D'Angelo Malone just kind of bails and works inside. If he was asked to run a stunt, he runs it very poorly. He works himself completely inside and backwards, and then Prescott leaks out. Landman isn't able to catch him. There's another play where it's just a basic run, and it's just like inside zone, his direction. He takes 1 step forward and then takes 2 steps backwards. He never engages with the offensive lineman. He then tries to go around him, dives completely like out of the play, and the ball runs right to the gap inside of him. Like, we're just seeing very undisciplined, very like bad football play, and it's kind of one of those things that feels like inexplicable. He was given 25 snaps. They had to have came to him and said like, this is your game, man. Like, this week we're calling your number, we're giving you opportunities. 20 pass rush snaps, like just pass rush alone. 1 pressure when he was left unblocked on the Tolbert touchdown. Like, Ferguson barely throws an elbow at him, and he just gets a free rush at the QB, and that counted as a pressure. It's like, it's very frustrating. He did have like the screenplay stop. That screenplay was like blown up kind of from the beginning, and there was company with him. So, it's just kind of, it is what it is. It's just not a very good football player. You see why he hasn't been taking a lot of snaps. It doesn't look like he's somebody that they can trust. And that's really what kind of frustrates you when you're like in year 3, 4 with a guy that you took in the 3rd round. Like, if we can't trust you to just kind of be able to set the edge and do the basics, like there's no way we can cut you loose and let you start rushing the passer. And I think Malone's kind of just been his own worst enemy. It's hard to blame anything on any of the past 3 staffs that have been here, in terms of his quality of play or what's going on.
Yeah. I think this was like, okay, before we trade for an edge rusher, we haven't really given D'Angelo Malone a chance to play. Like, let's see if he can show us something. Maybe, we don't need to make a move. Like, if he really shows up and it's like, oh, this is great, then it's like, okay, well, maybe we can decide we don't need to make a move, or maybe they're trying to figure out like, who do we want to move on from? Like, we're going to give Damone and we're going to give D'Angelo a bunch of reps, and because one of these guys is going to have to, get the axe when we make a trade here. And I think we know, like, I mean, Damone didn't exactly play great, but I think he played better, obviously. And
he does the basics.
He does the basic stuff, and he's obviously more versatile too. I think D'Angelo Malone probably going to be possibly the guy that is no longer here after this trade goes down, which I think I'm expecting it to happen. Are you expecting this edge rusher trade to materialize? There's so much smoke around it; it feels inevitable at this point.
I'm not expecting anything to materialize, but I'm fine either way at this point. I kind of think that like Atlanta needs another finisher. Yesterday they left like 2 or 3 sacks on the field. Part of that is because like they've got D'Angelo Malone, and I'm thinking like, boy, Harold Landry with those 20 pass rush snaps, or if who else is out there? Aziz with those 20 pass rush snaps. Kind of just anybody else with those 20 pass rush snaps maybe gets you one of those 2 to 3 sacks that were left out there.
Yeah. I mean, I think they just need a finisher. We know Harold Landry can do it. We know Aziz can do it to some extent. Harold Landry obviously more proven. Aziz a lot younger, a guy that you might give another contract to. So it just depends on what they're looking for. Like, do they want a young guy in Aziz that they could potentially re-sign? Or do they want like a rental veteran like Landry that's probably going to be more reliable and have a bigger impact this year, but you're not really seriously considering extending him more than likely. So I'm not sure who they'll go with, but I do think like one of those. I thought Baron Browning could have been interesting too, but the Cardinals do trade for him. It was, I guess, rumored also in those reports that the Falcons were like in those calls too. So I think it's probably going to come down to compensation. The Falcons just aren't going to part with like a premium pick like at all. And teams shouldn't be asking for premium picks for these guys either. I mean, it is what it is. The one that I thought was interesting was the buzz like around Calais Campbell. Like, I love Calais Campbell, so I would just like bring him back no matter what. I mean, I don't really care. Like if the Dolphins would take like a 2026 7th or something, just so we could get him back. Like, I feel like his leadership alone would just be worth it. Like, who knows how many snaps this man's going to play? He should probably play a lot, but like he's still good. I mean, like, is he elite Calais Campbell? Like, no, but like he's still good. I mean, he's one of the best run defenders in the NFL still, and they could really use that, I think. So, I mean, I wouldn't shy away from pulling the trigger on that one either.
Yeah. I mean, I know Calais, like, I know we made the offer and he just didn't really want to be here anymore. So that's unfortunate. But if he wants to come back, man, like, take him back in a heartbeat. Like, he would not say no to that reunion at all.
Yeah. But we'll see how the Falcons play that out. But I'm expecting a trade. We'll see if one actually happens. But another guy that ended up getting a lot of snaps with Rukaroro going on IR. Contavious Street, the return. The return of Contavious Street, much to the chagrin of the Brandon Dorless hive. But Contavious Street, 3 pressures. So, not the worst. Not the worst.
Not at all. I think that time on the bench kind of reignited the fire that Street came over here with when like Philly shipped him out of town, because he was being a healthy scratch and not getting playtime, and he was like, did not like that. And it looked like, hey, he got that reminder that they drafted 2 rookies that play your position. Eddie Goldman's back. we don't need you. Like, we need you to step up for us if you see the field, but we don't need you. And it looked like he was kind of back to being that plus contributor that we had like kind of been hoping for, and which was really good because a guy that we have talked about this year that's kind of like let us down a little bit has been David Onyemata, and like David has another performance where he's just kind of MIA.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like he's one of the guys that gave us all these expectations for this defensive line this year. Like when you look at the best, for me, I think Onyemata was like the best defensive lineman we had last year, and
Yep.
it's like Calais Campbell's like right behind him. But
Yeah.
like Do was ridiculous last year, and we just haven't seen that guy show up. So it was really good seeing that bump from Street. And then I think somebody else that you and I have been talking about for weeks now that like finally put it all together was Arnold Ebiketie.
Yeah.
Arnold had like his best all-around game. He tied Caden with QB hits. He had 3 of his own. I think he was like 1 pressure shy. I think he ended up with like 4. And
PFF
then
has him with 6.
PFF had him with 6. Okay, well, there we go.
So
Nice.
yeah,
Well,
if you trust PFF, I mean, I get it. The thoughts
it
around
works.
PFF, but yeah.
But we got to use all of our digits one way or the
Yep.
other, whether it's 5 or
Yep.
6. Like the man came to play, and
Yep.
like that's it was huge. I think he had the most snaps he's had
Yep.
all year
54.
in that game,
Yep.
and he took advantage of it. He did a really good job of like one thing that AK like has struggled with, in my opinion, is he will lose his contain like a lot, and he will kind of like dive in underneath the tackle a lot more. And when you see that first sack that he gets, it's a pure effort sack, and he gets it the right way by working from his outside contain. And then when Dak moves up, he sheds inside to then come up with the QB and get the sack. Textbook. And it kicks it off for the sack day. We get Grady's right after that, which AK causes that sack by the pressure he puts on because he makes Dak step up right into Grady. And so like we saw like these big steps taken from like these guys that we had like a lot of like faith and hope in with Ellis and AK, where we were all talking about like, man, we can get these guys to get those sack numbers up, we're going to be fine. And we saw that yesterday, and it was great. Like that's what we've been needing, like to see from Terry Fontenot's draft picks is like development and growth.
Yep. And yeah, it seems like they've been like he's been kind of heating up, and they've been rewarding him with more snaps. And of course, 54 today, the leading snap getter among all edge rushers, I believe. So yeah, because Damone had 38, but Damone aligned all over the place.
He's everywhere.
D'Angelo had 24. Judon had 39. Yeah, so clearly number 1 in snaps there. And they just like now Ebiketie's starting to play well, and it's like they still don't have a second pass. He was supposed to be the second pass rusher. They still don't have the other guy because Judon's doing nothing. Judon's doing nothing, and it's just it's so sad.
Matt looks old and tired out there sometimes. It's not what we hoped for.
Not what we hoped for. Pretty much sums it up. But that's part of the reason I think they have to make a trade, because like I feel like if they get someone like legitimate across from Ebiketie, it doesn't even have to be like a world beater, but just someone like legit, they could actually have a pretty good like DPR style package. The run game is still very much a problem, but at least they could get some kind of pass rushing package out there with Caden rushing. But we'll see how that develops. But yeah, the other thing with speaking of run D, Arnold Ebiketie 4 run stops, which I believe is a season high for him as well. So he's always been a better like pursuit player against the run, but I think he's been, like you said, he's been getting better at playing contain and also just setting the edge and making sure that he's getting outside. He's not the biggest guy, but like I think a lot of these edge rushers don't understand. Like you're not necessarily there to make the tackle. You're there to make sure the running back can't get around the offensive tackle. Like you have to push the tackle back, get around there, and force the running back to stop his feet so somebody else can get in there and make the tackle. And a lot of guys just charge at the running back. They see that they're unblocked and they just charge into the backfield, that sort of thing. I think he's gotten a lot better at not taking the cheese on those plays and playing it more sound and doing a better job there. And you love to see that. But yeah, I mean, the defense as a whole, like, um, they shut down the Cowboys passing game for like 3 quarters. I mean, I think when Dak left the game early in the fourth, I think he had 133 yards. And some of that was just like guys were dropping passes, like that's true. But the Falcons were definitely forcing drops too. I mean, there was I think 4 passes defensed by the Falcons. They seemed to be. I liked how they were trying to cover CD, and it was definitely working. Like they were playing off everywhere else, but they had D Alford when CD was in the slot. They had D Alford basically lined up, like in a press look. I mean, he wasn't actually pressing him, but he was lining up closer, and that just they wouldn't give him the free release essentially, and that seemed to really throw off the Cowboys' offense in a lot of spots. Even with I think not the best games from Terrell and Mike Hughes and stuff like that. Clark Phillips came in for a couple snaps at the end and just unfortunately had a bad go of it.
That was weird, man.
Yeah,
that was weird.
Yeah, they were playing like so conservatively on that last drive. I'm just trying to like write that off, but that was a concerning drive. But yeah, I mean, I just hate when you play defense like that. I feel like nothing good ever happens. But I get what they were doing. They were like, we just need to have them burn like a little bit more clock. There's like a 98% chance we're going to recover this onside and end the game. So like, and they did burn exactly the right amount of clock. So I guess it all went to plan. So
the margins were so close.
Yeah. So I guess it all went according to plan there. But yeah, I mean, I think it was overall like a very strong game. They got contributions from all over the defense. I think Eddie Goldman needs more snaps, man. Like, he only played 2 snaps again. It's like, you can't stop the run. Like, you need to get your nose tackle on the field. Like, and he rushes the passer well. Yes, yeah. He rushes the passer well too. He played 2 snaps and had a pressure.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't understand what he needs to do. Like, I get it. Like, you want to play your young guys and stuff, but like Goldman's playing well. Yeah. For the stretch run. Yeah. Like, you can't stop the run, and he's also a good pass rusher. So like, I mean, I would get the beef out there, if you can't stop the run. But hopefully when they get, Anderson back, that'll open them up to be able to just stop the run better in general. When they have a linebacker that can move. And again, this is nothing like personal against Nate Landman. This is a pro Nate Landman podcast. But they need to, okay, maybe not. I don't want to speak for Tre'Shon, but, a pro healthy Nate Landman podcast at least. But yeah, in this state, it's ugly, man. It's just him and Judon. They both you look at them compared to everyone else running on the field, and they look like they're stuck in mud. I mean, it's
moving
sad.
At a different speed, but not the one you would hope.
Not in the way. I mean, look at that compared to like DeMarvion Overshown, one of my draft crushes, and you just like, yeah, I like that. Maybe we could trade for him. Yeah.
yeah. They're gonna have to do something, but we'll just keep hoping that this is the week that Troy is really day to day and coming back.
Troy just went out for some cigarettes. He's coming back.
Yeah, any day now. Dad's
any day now. He's coming home. Yep. So we'll just hope that he actually comes home at some point.
But like you were saying, I like the defense. The big I think what makes that last drive like a little maddening is like we saw the Cowboys like when they had a final drive before the half, and I was like, here we go. Like I was ready because every offensive drive this year that the opposing team has like gotten right before the first half ends seems to inexplicably just end in points, and we put on like a terrible performance. And you saw them lock in on that drive, and they were able to do a much better job at kind of swarming, keeping everything in front of them, and really limiting the opportunities for the Cowboys to get the ball in scoring range. They did a really good job. So we did see them take a step there. They had their third fewest amount of points given up in the first half this season, and it was the least since week 2.
Yeah.
The Eagles game, which I think was like they only gave up 7 in that first half or something like that, and then it was like 9 the week before that against Pittsburgh. So really good first half performance, which is something we have not seen in a like I said, we have not seen a good first half performance since week 2. So really liked the steps and strides that we saw them take this week.
Yeah, yeah, you like it, and the other thing, like, I mean, I thought they played well like all day. Like the Rico Dowdle like touchdown is one of the least likely plays you'll ever see in the
Yeah.
NFL. Like, also D. Alford, like, I
Thought
can't
it was
believe
a
you're not.
pick.
I can't believe you're not playing the ball in a tip drill that you started. You started the
Oh,
tip. Like he just like
yeah.
walked off like the play was over. Like I know you got swag, D, but I need you to play the damn ball, okay? Like, please play the ball. Um, but yeah, I mean, so that was 7 points right there. I mean, like that. I think that was third down. So like,
Yeah, I
um,
believe so.
so and then it was like third and infinity, and it's like wow, you give that up. So, um, unfortunate, but I look like it was a one score game at the end, but I think the Falcons handily beat this team, and they needed to because this Dallas Cowboys team is so dysfunctional. I mean, you saw it, man. They're just not well coached. They're playing way below their talent level. Obviously, the defense is a big problem. I mean, they have so many losses there, but they're just
Yeah.
the injury management too. Like Trayvon Diggs clearly not healthy. They threw him out there. He
Bijan
tore.
tested that man on the
Yeah.
first play. he, he saw the 7 on his chest and said there can only be one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like it felt like anytime Bijan saw Diggs, he's like, I want to embarrass you. You should not be wearing the same number as me. It was brutal.
Yeah. So and he apparently he had a calf tear like days ago, and they were like let's go. Yeah, let's go, buddy. I mean, I guess this was probably their season on the line here, but like,
Yeah, that's how
especially with
they
yeah. So, and then CD, man, that was malpractice. You can't let that man back on the field. I mean, how long is he going to be out? I mean, weeks, I imagine now. I mean, and Dak is out, probably going to go on IR with his hamstring tear, which obviously is unfortunate. It seemed like a freak thing. He just kind of tore it while he was throwing.
just happened. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was really odd. They said it
yeah,
happened on one of those like little. He didn't even really scramble that much on
no,
that play compared to some of the others, and unfortunate. And I think
wait,
Dak really like. I think Dak summed up the Cowboys the best yesterday on the side.
yeah. Oh man, just yeah. So the Cowboys are cooked. I mean, this is over for them. Dak's out, and I mean, Cooper Rush was 5-1 as a starter, so maybe they'll be okay. I don't know.
Trey Lance season. Come on,
Yeah,
Jerry.
yeah. I mean, we'll see. Jerry's too much of a coward for that, um, but yeah, great. Defense played a good game. This secondary obviously terrified them, which is great to see. Dak didn't attempt a single pass, I think, beyond 10 yards or something like that.
Something crazy like that.
Yeah, he had
It
a
wasn't until
career low
Rush
yard.
came in that they started throwing
Yeah,
bombs.
Rush was like, I don't give a shit. Like, it's just, I got nothing. Like, I don't care. Like, this is not. Yeah, no one has any expectations for me, so I'm going. But yeah, no, I think
Time.
yeah, it's time for the rush. You're gonna feel the rush after this game. There's so many good slogans. That's a great backup name. But yeah, I think he had a career low yards per attempt. It was like 3.4 or something like that. So it was just like, oof. And he completed most of those passes, but it's like, what did it cost you?
The blitz really bothered him. This was like the
Yeah.
longest film rush I had to go through because it felt like every single play was like had an extra 7 or 8 seconds on it because Dak's like at the line trying to manage, trying to call guys out, and like you could see that Lake and Raheem did a really good job this week of kind of like getting in his head because they clearly saw something because like you point out, it's one thing for teams to not like get the big plays off, but we've seen plenty of teams attack the intermediate zone and get like 6, 8, 10,
Yeah.
like no problem. And that just like was not happening yesterday. So big credit to the coaching staff.
Yeah, good stuff there, and Falcons limit that passing game in a big way. Run defense still very concerning, but you get the feeling the Falcons were especially like going like after they went up in they kind of just didn't care like if they wanted to run the football. They were like, "Yep, that's fine." Like we want to stay in nickel anyway, so you're really just doing us. Yeah, it's fine. You do whatever you want. You can run the ball every down. We don't care. So I think early in the game they were doing a good job of limiting it enough. Like they were, obviously. And then an elite fourth down defense still for this team. I mean, and elite fake punt defense as well. Back-to-back weeks where they just like the fake punt was just like this team looked completely unfazed by both fake punts. Like just like wow, I can't believe they're attempting this. Okay, well.
Special teams some special teams was on one yesterday. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was it was quite an eventful day for the forgotten third phase. You had the fake punt, and what was kind of like interesting about that is like that pass was to CJ Goodwin, and I don't
Yeah,
know if too
former
many people
Falcon.
remember,
Yeah.
but like that's like a former special teams legend from the
Yeah.
DQ era. So
Yep.
like one, like you already know, like they went to him that week in the meeting room and were like, CJ, we got you. We're
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 gonna
you
get them.
coming back to the team that let you go. We're gonna get one back for him. So like just knowing that like that fell flat was like great. Brooks,
So
if
close.
if
Yeah.
Brooks houses that, which like he could have, Goodwin makes a great play and he holds his arm back, which
Yep.
keeps him getting that second one on it. I legitimately think McCarthy gets handed a pink slip this morning if he takes that one back for 6, because he had it, and
Yeah.
man, it was
Man.
just crazy. Bradley Pinion, who had like a kind of an off day punting, or very rare shank. You don't usually
Yeah.
see that happen. Unfortunately, he did have a punt that he
He had a
boomed
great
around
one.
like
Yeah.
3,
Yeah.
but nobody was able to get there
Yeah. Mhm.
to help. But we gotta talk about my man's
I
QB
can't believe no one
QB1
like
moment.
started running into the like. Look, I need you to release into the flat. Okay, this is a busted play. Like all the Falcons players were like standing around, like what's happening? It's like I need you to
Pinion
run into the flat.
Pinion walked
Somebody
off
do
the field
something. Yes.
like Pinion walked off the field like Tom Brady after he didn't convert a
Yeah.
third down. It was
I
like,
mean, he was
it
under
was hysterical
control.
to watch. He
Yes.
got up and that man was looking for receivers. He was like,
Yes.
"There's no way I'm passing up this opportunity." Pulls off a little Fran Tarkenton scramble drill.
Yep.
He's looking, and he just, first of all, we got to talk about that pass.
That was a
He
great
threw a little
pass.
zip on that
Plenty.
thing. When you
Yeah.
look at Ogner's pass, he has to like wind up and do all this. Pinion just looked like Vic, man. It was just a
Yep.
flick of the wrist. And you could just tell that he was so disappointed. Shout out to Koo, who got a 2-for-1 cut block on that play. Koo took
Oh
out 2
God.
points for Pinion so Pinion could keep the scramble alive, but nobody else was able to get open.
Yeah, I need someone to like release into the flat there. Like they just kind of were like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, please just start running for the end zone. Like, if anyone had even attempted to go there, like he would have got them. Like
He was
he
gonna
was
give you a
ready.
chance.
Yeah, he was ready, man. Like I love that. He's hilarious.
Oh,
But people don't realize like he is like a brick shithouse. Like Bradley Pinion is
he's
huge.
huge.
Yes.
He's like the biggest punter in the league. He's like
Yeah.
6'6".
Yeah. He should have just run it and trucked some like poor cornerback or something.
I
But
I
yeah.
legitimately thought he was gonna tuck it. Like,
Why
when he
not? I
decided to
mean,
run across, I'm like, oh, he's tucking this and going for the 2 points
he's
on
like,
his
we're
own. He
doing
does not
this.
care.
Yeah. Well, what we do know is when the Falcons do throw that fake punt, it's gonna hit like crack with Bradley Pinion throwing that thing. So
He could
he's
throw
gonna
it for
rip that
40
shit.
from
Yeah. You're just gonna be like, oh, why is Darnell Mooney at gunner? That's weird. And then just like you're gonna rip that shit downfield, for 40 yards.
Oh man.
Oh man. Oh, good
Oh,
stuff. Yeah.
it was good stuff.
Love to see it from the special teams. Avery Williams, I can only assume that he lost the ball because there's no reason otherwise for him to not fair catch that. I think if he
Yeah.
chose to just not fair catch it, then that is like a benchable offense. But I can't believe like that was such a no brainer fair catch. I'm guessing he just lost it and was like, I can't touch it. Like,
Yeah.
that's
I
the only
hope so.
explanation. I hope so.
Yeah. And, Avery's been like,
not great.
okay. He's,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like it's not the guy from, a couple of years ago. I think the injury has taken a little bit of explosiveness from him. Still, serviceable, but I think that's one of those things where we think about the role Moore would have played for this team this year, and that's kind of one of the things is like just adding a little bit more juice to the return game. But
Yeah.
we got we got enough right now to get by, so we'll
It's
make
okay.
it work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you definitely think that they'll be looking hard at returners next year, and I wouldn't be shocked if they get Rondale Moore back. I mean, he's obviously not going to be expensive. I think they were hoping maybe he could be a factor there too. Obviously it looks like I think Ray signed a 2-year deal, so he'll be back, and he's also just a decent returner. So, but yeah, that's always a great thing for UDFAs too. Just like go
Mm-hmm.
hard, bring in like 5 UDFA return receivers and just let them fight it out. Teams find good returners in UDFA all the time. So, yeah,
And they tried after Moore went down. Like
they
they
did.
brought in Jakeem Grant. Like when I
Mhm.
saw them bring in Grant, that really signaled to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, they definitely want speed at the return position because like Grant offered them less as a receiver than
Yeah,
Moore like did, which wasn't like much already to begin with. So I'm like, okay, yeah, they want that speed. So I'm with you. I
yeah.
think they just they look at the undrafted free agent options and other things like that next year and just kind of have an open competition, which is pretty much what they did this year.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll see. Um, it's possible Avery continues to get healthier too, and maybe gets back to form. But we'll see how that goes. Uh, but yeah, let's talk about the offense a little bit. I mean, I think the offense
Yeah.
is kind of like it feels like we're just saying the same thing, but basically just like yeah, they just keep getting better. I think this was Ryan Newsell's best game. He was really good as a pass blocker as usual. But he's usually like, oh, he's fine as a pass blocker and kind of like meh as a run blocker or worse. This McKee was like, oh, that's great as a pass blocker and just like, okay, yeah, it's pretty decent as a run blocker. PFF was really harsh on Bergeron in this game. I didn't really get that. I thought he played fine.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, like, the run game is still too inconsistent for my liking. Still too many guys in the backfield. They just refuse to block DeMarvion Overshone. Like, I don't really get it. They just like we're like, we're just gonna leave him unblocked. It's like, don't do that. Please don't. And also they keep holding when they don't need to, which is not great. Like I mean, that one that wiped out that killed an entire drive was like that was the most unnecessary hold like I've ever seen. It's like he's not even like Bijan's like 2 yards away from you. Like why are you holding? Like just let go. Like it's okay, just relax. But ultimately, Drake London only plays 11 snaps before he goes out of the game. It does thankfully sound like it's not a serious injury for him. We'll have to, monitor that. They
These
said the
kids doing the
dreaded,
breakdancing.
yeah, they yeah, right. But the Falcons were okay without him. I mean, obviously you don't want to do that long term, but Darnell Mooney like slotted into that wide receiver 1 role, was just fine there. We got a touchdown from Ray finally.
Yeah.
I actually thought he'd already scored one, I guess, but he got his first one. And
Mm-hmm.
Kadero Hodge is fine. As a backup for Drake. I do wonder if Drake is going to miss another game if they try to work in Casey Washington more, because I think he was kind of the guy they thought might be like Drake's backup long term. But Hodge is fine, and I think Hodge blocks well too. Like I think he had some key blocks in this game. So, yeah, I mean, what'd you think about this offense's day overall? Obviously, Kirk crushed it again. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was one of Z-Rob's best days as a play caller. I know like kind of the same story with the defense. It's like the final drive does not leave the best taste in your mouth to end the day. But first game that the Falcons offense scores a touchdown in every single quarter. That hadn't happened yet. Kirk Cousins goes 19 of 24, has his most, I think, like efficient game of the year, had his highest completion percentage over expected with an 11.3. And the area that we've seen them grow the most, that they were like just atrocious at in weeks 1 through 7, is responding to pressure and responding to the blitz. We still had obviously a sack and whatnot. But Kirk Cousins went 8 for 11 for 110 yards and a touchdown against pressure yesterday. And when you add that to the week before against Tampa, he's got like 250 something yards and 3 touchdowns total because he had 2 in that game against pressure. So like that was kind of the area like I thought like for this offense to really take the next step that they needed to improve on, because once you start seeing those playoff teams are going to be able to get to the quarterback. Teams are going to be able to rush the passer. Do you have answers? Can you respond? Zach Robinson and Kirk Cousins have done a really good job at coming up with better responses and better counter punches to pressure. And like you saw it on that like Mooney one, of course, which was like just like very badly coached defense. But like, you're seeing it on other plays as well. Darnell Mooney, I think Darnell Mooney is on the like best valued contract out of any NFL player right now. Darnell Mooney is on a 3-year, 11 million total guaranteed contract. His his cap hit in total is 21 million. The Bears let him walk. The Bears went out and traded a fourth for Keenan Allen, who has a cap hit of 18 million for a 1-year rental. They completely botched that move. Like Darnell Mooney has he's such a great case study for QB play and situation, how it makes all the difference. Like all these advanced data points told you that like this guy can get open. You look at the film, he's getting open. Yeah, he has a drop or two. It's probably because he only gets 1 or 2 accurate targets a game. Like, and he's been brought in here and he's done nothing but excel. He's already at 500 yards. He's already got 5 touchdowns. The Falcons in their history have hardly ever had wide receivers that get 10 touchdowns. He has 5. Drake has 6. This could be like the first time. I think this might be like the first season ever that like the Falcons might have 2 10-touchdown wide receivers, not like a tight end and a wide receiver, because we saw Tony do that with Roddy, but like just in general. So, it's kind of like we're seeing them like, like go down the checklist of like, okay, items of improvement, what's on our to-do list this week, and they're like knocking it out of the park. Like Bijan's gotten a lot better at the outside zone concepts. He seems more comfortable. He's getting more patient, and like the offense is just flourishing. But like, man, 4 weeks in a row now, Bijan Robinson just looks different. Like, and, I don't know what you want to, I don't know what tagline people want to say, generational or top whatever pick or whatnot. He looks like he's been worth the pick these past 4 weeks. This offense does not work without what he's been providing the past 4 weeks. He's just been exceptional, and it just looks like a one-of-one player on the football field.
Yeah, no, he looks great. He's their best yards after catch weapon. And they get into this thing where they just kind of start spamming this one play like as their like quick option. And like after like the third time or the second time, it's like the defense just like knows it's coming and it doesn't really work anymore. They need to like do a little bit of mixing and matching. They need to like work in like maybe like I was calling for the screens to go away, and they did. And then they just like replaced that with just swing pass to Bijan, and like that worked for like a week, and now teams are on it. So it's like maybe like if you combine the two, like maybe you do some swing passes to Bijan, some screenplays. Like I know maybe that's controversial. Maybe you like mix it up, and maybe that would work a little bit better. Because that they need like more than one quick game option there. But Bijan's just so deadly. I mean, we saw that one where like Bijan it was basically like a broken play. He just kind of makes himself available over the middle for like a 40-yard gain. You're just like, and he's just so deadly. Like if he breaks a tackle and gets going, I mean, it looks like he's just greased up or something. It's just like people just like fall off of him. It's just, and it's not like he's this huge like bowling ball Derrick Henry running back. It's just he's so slippery. Like people just don't tackle him, and you see that on just like run of the mill inside zone carries too, where he'll just kind of like he'll go in and there'll be people everywhere, and he just kind of keeps going for like 3 yards, and it's like, how did this happen? He just kind of kept going. So the run game, like the one thing I'll say is this run game is very inconsistent. They don't really put together like just consistent runs, and like they've had a really hard time like running the ball when the opponent knows they're gonna run it. Like they basically blew 2 drives trying to close out the game with just runs. And just got nothing the entire time. And they've also had this tendency to just hold, which obviously hurts. I think Drew Dahlman's absence has a lot to do with that, and that so hopefully when Dahlman comes back, they'll be able to get that push, that more consistent push, and just like that stuff with Overshown blitzing that they're not picking up and stuff like that. That's all stuff that like a veteran center like Dahlman probably is going to give you a better read on that, and Kirk can also help with that some too, but. I think like they can just make the run game more consistent and to where they can actually like lean on that. I think that'll help so many of their issues. Because right now, like, third and short is like their nemesis. Like, they just like it's like they just don't like they either like run it and get stuffed, or they throw it like and Kirk just launches a deep ball to Darnell Mooney, which sometimes converts, but like like other times it's like maybe just take the check down, Kirk. It's okay,
Yeah.
but it's like he just like sees that one-on-one to Mooney and he's like, I'm going for it. And like it's usually like fingertips or close, and it's like maybe that could be a big play, but I think maybe they should focus on keeping the drive going more than just like bombing Darnell Mooney. As fun as it is to watch bombs to Darnell Mooney, like all the time, like maybe like just occasionally hit the check down. Like it's like Kirk has undergone some kind of complete like personal transformation where he was like the check down king for like a decade, and then he's like, that's not me anymore. I don't throw the check down. And he's just like, I refuse. I'm not taking that. Yeah, that's a free first down. I don't care. We're going for it. And like,
been watching Penix rip it in practice.
Yeah,
He's like, oh, hold on.
He's like, wait
I
a
can do
second.
that.
Wait, this young gun. I can't let this whippersnapper upstage me. So, no, I mean, that's one of those things. Like, but I don't know. To me, like the run game is such a big part of really unlocking the final stage and this becoming like a top 5 offense. And I hope that they can get there. And I think it's possible that, Drew Dahlman, who I think like could have played if this was a more important game. I mean, he practiced fully on, before the game. I think it was wise to let him sit another one, given that he's only practiced like 3 days. But, I think Dahlman could be like the last infinity stone. You just like, and obviously Drake London needs to be there too. So hopefully he can be back as well. You just drop Drew Dahlman in the middle of that offensive line infinity gauntlet, and just then all of a sudden, everything works. That's my hope.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're seeing Z-Rob like kind of take steps and really start to kind of work out different ways to help the run game. The thing that he's done the most that I like is he's kind of like come up with this pseudo heavy package. Like the Falcons are still using primarily 11 personnel. I don't know if we'll ever like fully beat that out of Zach, coming from the McVay tree, but he's really started to use and lean on Charlie Warner more as a blocker. I think he's gotten less concerned with the whole tendencies factor and being like, oh, well, if I have Charlie out there, they know I'm going to run. One great way to alleviate that is by calling pass plays with Charlie when he's on the field, which they have started to do. And Warner actually shut down, Charles.
Yeah, one-on-one.
Golston one-on-one there for that big Drake London connection when he was running across the middle of the field there at the first half. So, we're seeing them up the split zone concepts. We're even seeing them start to implement some duo, which I think is like really promising. I don't know if like, I think part of that was maybe to like kind of help Muziel a little bit on the interior. Saw him and Chris working together on a couple of double teams. And we've really just kind of seen like Zach start to work in, a couple of different concepts that marry in well with like the heavy zone scheme that we like to run. So, I'm with you. I think that if they can get more consistent, especially on those third and short situations, because those are supposed to be money downs for the offense and difficult downs for the defense. Like those are the downs that you're like supposed to like win the majority of the time. Then, this offense will really be able to take the next step. Something that I thought was interesting last night after I was looking through some other data on the Falcons' series conversion rate, their success rate on whether or not they start with a run play or a pass play on the series, which then basically says if they start with X play, they end up with a first down or touchdown at the end of that series blank amount of times. They were 100%. They had a 100% series conversion success rate when they started when they threw the ball on first down. It was a 64% series conversion rate when they ran the ball. And I think those last couple of series really tanked that. But it kind of goes back to show you, like we've talked about how this passing offense has really taken a big step, and they're kind of starting to lean on it a little bit more. And yesterday, like when they threw the ball on first down, all it did was it either resulted in a first down or a touchdown by the end of the series. So, it's kind of nice to see that side of the ball really pick up because, like we'd all been saying, it just takes an average quarterback, and we're getting above average play from Kirk right now. And like the offense is like soaring to heights we have not seen in a long time.
Yeah, no, it's been really great to watch this passing game take off, and um, I think that we just need to see the running game kind of round into form. But we've gotten great returns from the pass game. They can clearly win with the passing game. Like that's not something we've seen from this team since Matt Ryan left, essentially.
Mm.
And I think they can. I think this team can win with the run game too. I think they haven't quite gotten there yet, but I think they're close. And I think they've been doing a lot more like split zone and inside zone and stuff. And I hope they continue to do that and not just not over rely on the outside zone. And we've also seen a clear shift to just Bijan as being the primary back, which is and like in this game we saw what Algier can do. Like Algier's a very good running back, like no mistake there. But Bijan's just so much more dynamic. Algier is great. Algier might be a better short yardage option. I mean, who knows? But it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to run like straight dive, then yeah, probably Algier's better. If you want the running back to like make a cut, probably Bijan's better. So they're both good options. But yeah, I think that's the last piece is if we can get a consistent run game going, that you can really just like carve teams up no matter what you're doing. The defense is probably going to be what they are. They're 20th right now. I think that's probably about what this defense is. Like I think this defense is probably about 20th. And that's not like worst in the league or anything. That's about average. And you can win with average defense and good offense. And this team is, now 8th in yardage and 12th in scoring. They're approaching that top 10 number that we've been hoping for, and we'll see if they can get there. But definitely a good couple weeks. They needed a good like home offensive performance. They've just kind of been like, other than that Tampa Bay game at home, kind of just mediocre at home on offense. I think the Steelers game, Chiefs game, and the Seahawks game at home, all under 20 points.
Yeah.
The only ones they scored more were the Saints, where they scored 26, and then they scored 36 in overtime against the Bucks. So it's been trending upwards since that Week 3 game. But the Seattle game was clearly, that was a blip. And I think we talked about that. It's just like Kirk was really close on several throws, had a couple unfortunate picks where he just kind of got into start to force it mode. But the good news is Falcons play great on the road. So
defeated.
Yeah, they play 2 games on the road before the bye. But that's not necessarily a bad thing for them. They seem to rise to the challenge on the road, and they could put the nail in the Saints' coffin this week. And I'm looking forward to that reality. And you're not looking forward to that?
Oh no, I was just
yeah, you're feeling it. You're feeling it. Good.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, it's I think they can. Obviously you get the fired coach bump. A lot of teams get that, but like that team is like I thought the Cowboys vibes were bad until I saw the Saints game this week. I think the Saints have the worst vibes in the NFL. And like, does anything change with the Dennis Allen firing? Like, are the players like happy? Because the complaints I saw, some of them are, but like the complaints I was seeing were mostly about Derek Carr. Like I felt like most of the slander was directed at Derek Carr. He's still there. So.
Yeah, now you have Pete's handpicked staff running the show without him. Like, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like it's really gonna fix everything for you guys. Yeah. First of all, such cowards. Like, oh, you're gonna let Carolina get that credit of like getting the head coach fired? That's fine if you'd rather Bryce Young and Dave Canals like finish your season, but that just tells me that you knew you were going to have to fire him after the Falcons game, and they just could not live with it. They came into this week thinking, okay, we're gonna lose to Atlanta, so we have to fire Allen now because we don't want to deal with the social media posts after that Atlanta game.
You can't give them the satisfaction.
Man. Yeah.
It's a damn shame. Yeah.
But yeah, 7 game losing streak. And yeah, it's like crazy to think like with how bad Dallas is that they lost to that Saints team. But yeah, with the Panthers standing up for themselves yesterday, they've now made the division. They've really basically clipped the Saints' hopes of even trying to like make things wild in this division because now they've split that series.
Yeah. I mean, the Falcons are like, if they beat the Saints this week, the divisions, they have a stranglehold on it. I mean, they've got every conceivable tiebreaker locked up. We'll have to see what happens with the Bucks tonight, but if the Bucks lose tonight, the Falcons effectively are 3 games up. And obviously if the Falcons were to beat the Saints next week, and the Bucks have to go play the 49ers, who might be getting CMC back. And we all know how different the 49ers team is with CMC. It's a completely different offense. So if the Falcons, win next week and the Bucks lose these next 2, there's not really a realistic path for Tampa Bay to come back in the division. I mean, they could finish strong and it wouldn't matter. They would need Atlanta to collapse.
They likely will, based on how soft their schedule is.
I mean, yeah, they're going to finish strong, but they also aren't the same team anymore with those receivers down. I mean, they might have to try to scrape by with some of these games. So, obviously it's a tough situation there. You hate to see them lose 2 great receivers. I mean, it's bad for the league. It's bad for everyone to not be able to watch Chris Godwin and Mike Evans play football. Obviously it helps the Falcons' chances in the division, but it still sucks. But they will get Mike Evans back at some point. But it's just the way that this schedule played out for them. They needed the Falcons to scuffle more, which I thought they would. I thought the Falcons would be 4-5 right now, and then finish really strong. And it would probably, come down to a difficult, end of the season, depending on how the Bucks fared. But instead, it's the Bucks who have scuffled, and the Falcons have really come out to an early lead. And the Falcons also have a soft finish. I mean, obviously some of those games are harder than it looked initially. With the Chargers look better than expected, the Vikings look better than expected. Obviously, the Commanders are way better than expected, but the rest of those games, I mean, it's the Panthers in week 18, where the Falcons may not even be playing starters in that game. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, it's a long way off. I mean, before we know that, but the Raiders, that team is an inch from firing their coaching staff. They already fired 3 offensive coaches.
Oh man, that is just a show.
That's a terrible look. Yeah, that's a terrible look. And the Giants, the Giants, I feel are semi-respectable, but they just don't win football games. That team could win football games. They just don't. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to make up the ground. The Bucks need a miracle tonight or next week, to be able to really stay in this. Coupled with the Falcons collapse, which Falcons fans should be rightly afraid of the Falcons collapse. We've witnessed this way too many times, but statistically wise, the Falcons are in a very good position. They just need to take care of business at this point. They don't need to go on a run. They don't need to do anything crazy. They just need to take care of business, and they'll at this point they just 4 wins and you're in. I would say at this point. So I think you like your chances for that, given the upcoming schedule. But yeah, Tre'Shon, any final takes? I think we covered this one pretty well.
Yeah, I think I think overall it's just really good to see this team, handle their business. I think up until this point, we've talked about this earlier before we went into that Carolina game, and you and I were both screaming classic trap game. The Arthur Smith Falcons lose this game, they probably have a performance like the Saints had yesterday, where you're just what kind of football is this right now? And again, going up against this Dallas team that has been disappointing, and they're looking for a get right game because they have to turn their season around, and Atlanta just completely closes the door on that and did their job. And it's just very refreshing to kind of have an adult football team again. I think is the best way to describe it, to where you are less worried about your team, I think, from a philosophical standpoint. Can they just go out there and lose like a normal football team? And there has still been stress this year, but most of it has just been due to the flow of the game. We've seen a ton of close games across the entire league. We're not the only team in close games, but we're taking care of our job, and they're taking care of their job, and they're getting the wins that they should be getting, and are putting up a good fight against those better teams.
Yeah, I mean, early in the season, that was kind of all we could cling to, was they got that miracle against the Eagles, and then they made the Chiefs sweat it out, and the Chiefs basically depended on a no call on Kyle Pitts to hold on to that lead. And Mahomes maybe he does, hold on to the lead and have his magic and the Falcons don't win. Anything could happen. But the Falcons, gave the Chiefs hell in that one, and it was a close game. So they've held up against, the good teams. The Eagles obviously look good. The Steelers, I think we were all like, oh God, they lost to the Steelers. That team's bad. The Steelers are not a bad football team. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL. And the Falcons played a very bizarre offensive scheme in that game that we've never seen again. They scrapped that one. They're like, let's just burn this tape and we're gonna move on. I mean, they've certainly played their best football against the NFC South, which, if you're gonna pick one opponent to do it against, it's that one. So yeah, you love to see it. Falcons are playing well. They're taking care of business. They just got to keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep rounding into form and get yourself in position for a good seed and a good, situation in the playoffs here. I think they got a couple more games that will tell us more about sort of how this team stacks up. I think the Chargers are actually a really good test given their run game and their defense. That's like two things the Falcons probably struggle against, are teams with great defenses and teams that can run the ball really well and that like will run the ball like a lot. So that'll be a good test. Obviously the Vikings game is going to be big emotionally for Kirk and everything. And the Vikings look more mortal than they did, to start the season, but that's still like a big NFC showdown. I think that one's getting flexed for sure. And the Commanders too. I think the Vikings and Commanders games.
One of those two has to. And you have two storylines. You've got Dan Quinn, first game as a head coach against the Falcons, and then you've got Kirk going back. So it's like it's kind of funny to me that the Vikings one was never. Yeah. Like I get it. The Vikings didn't have high expectations this year, but again, I'm with you. I think one of those definitely needs to be flexed.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think we covered it. Tre'Shon, thanks so much for coming on again for Tuesday Takes, guys. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kevin. I have Falcon Kevin. He's Tre'Shon Diaz at Tre'Shon. Please like, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Leave us that 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. That really helps us out. Leave us a comment. We love to read those too. Check out the Patreon. If you want to support the show, it's patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. If you're a video enjoyer, you can join the YouTube channel members as well. And of course, check out thefalcoholic.com for that terrific written content. And thanks to BetOnline for sponsoring today's episode. We will see you guys on Wednesday for Falcoholic Live. We'll be joined by Joe Patrick to get his take on the Falcons at the midpoint of the season. And we will be going from there as we move into Hate Week Take 2, where hopefully the Falcons can thoroughly. I feel like this has to be the payback game, man. We got to get them back for how last year went. Like we gotta demolish their hopes and dreams and just. I mean, I feel like that team could have a fire sale over the next day too, like with Marshawn and other things. So like, just really want to twist the knife, we won't run a play out of victory formation because we're better than that, but we will just score 40 on them anyway, So, but yeah, looking forward to it. We'll see you guys real soon on the Dirty Birds and Brews podcast, Falcon Live. See you next time, guys. Have a great night.